January 2026 at last. Where did 2025 go? I do hope you enjoyed the festive season. I know I did. It's always nice to get back to normal, whatever that may be for you, and away from all of that temptation. I'm talking about the food. My diet starts today. Anyway, we have our 30-minute programme for you, filled with interviews to bring us back to reality and also to make us laugh more. Here's what's coming up. Do you ever wonder what's going on around the world when it comes to our climate? It's crazy, isn't it? What exactly is happening?
We should be talking about hotter hots, colder colds, drier dries and wetter wets within an overall warming trend. And I think many of your listeners will recognise some of that already.
For those of us intrigued by archaeological discoveries, you'll know that pictures etched in stone were their way of communicating.
But they were looking around everything, and mostly I think those pictures are scenes of animals either they'd be frightened of or wanted to catch. And it was their way of communicating. It's just a version of stone carving of any kind.
Now let's switch to something more positive, something to laugh about.
The pretend laughter turns into real laughter really quickly if you just allow it, and then you get the giggles and then you can't stop.
I hope I've tempted you enough to stay with me for the next half hour. You know it's time well spent, so let's get cracking. Climate change is one of the most debated challenges of our time, with many leaders recognising the threat but struggling to agree on the necessary action. On the other hand, there are those who still dismiss it as a hoax, while the rest of us watch the impacts unfold in our gardens, on our screens, extreme floods, wildfires and unpredictable weather patterns. Today, we're thrilled to have Will Day with us to share his expertise on this urgent issue. Will has had a distinguished career as a sustainability advisor to PricewaterhouseCoopers UK and is a fellow of the University of Cambridge Institute for Sustainability Leadership. He's also worked with global leaders across the public, private and civil sectors to tackle sustainability. In this no-holds-barred interview with our reporter Alistair Wayne, Will dives deep into the realities of climate change and offers practical insights on how we, as individuals, can make a difference. So stay with us as we explore the science, the challenges, and the role we all play in addressing this global crisis.
Will, absolutely delighted to have you on the u3a podcast. It's a real privilege to get an expert like you to talk about such an important subject, which is climate change. I think it would be useful to open the podcast with an explanation of what is climate change.
Well, thanks, Al. So, disclaimer to start with, I'm not a climate scientist, so this is going to be a description in layman's terms, which I hope is of some value. My climate scientist friends at the University of Cambridge tell me that I shouldn't be talking about global warming, I should talk about climate disruption. We should be talking about hotter hots, colder colds, drier dries and wetter wets within an overall warming trend. And I think many of your listeners will recognise some of that already. We've known about the science behind it for a long time, over 170 years. There are lots of natural sources of CO2, kind of rotting vegetation, volcanoes, wildfires and so on. And there are lots of things that absorb CO2, trees, oceans, soil. And the tilt of the planet facing the sun affects all of that. But it's mankind's activities that has been unbalancing our climate. Primarily the burning of fossil fuel, but also cutting down trees, draining fields, ploughing ruminant animals, and so on. So that's clear. We've been the added extra volume of CO2 in the atmosphere. For the last 12,000 years or so, we've been living in a period called the Holocene, which has been stable climate, and we've flourished as a species during that time. Some earth scientists are telling us that we should be calling the current era the Anthropocene to reflect our impact on the planet. So back to climate change, safe level was considered to be 1.5 increase from our pre-industrial activity. 2.2, 2.4 is where we're currently headed. doesn't sound very much warming, but actually it's potentially catastrophic.
What does that mean?
Well, it's going to mean increasing weather extremes, and we're just seeing the kind of tip edge of that. And of course, that will directly affect things like food production, human health, our infrastructure's ability to cope with that. This is not happening at a small scale, it's happening at a global scale. And some of these processes will be slow, others will be fast. And some will have impacts which kind of kick off other potentially big changes. These are called tipping points. So an example of that would be, as we warm the frozen tundra in the north of the planet, that will unlock vast quantities of CO2 which have been stored in the frozen soil and vegetation for millennia. And of course, as you unlock those vast quantities, you then accelerate the process of the greenhouse effect. Another is if the ocean current that currently brings warm water up from the tropics and keeps the UK and Northern Europe warm, if that was to slow down or even stop, then we would move here to a new weather system, which could leave, as an example, North Sea coasts of the UK and the Thames frozen for months of the year, and temperatures of -20, -30 or so, which normally kind of Arctic temperatures would come down and affect us. Yet we'd still have hotter, drier summers with the kind of water stress and reduced harvests that would imply. So a profound shift. I've been talking about weather things, but everybody's going to be affected around the globe. And a great number of people are going to need to move from parts of the world that will become difficult or even impossible to live in. So if you think that migration is an issue now, just wait until hundreds of millions of people potentially have to move. Where are they going to go and who's going to receive them? If you live near a coastline or on low-lying islands, and of course, I think we've already unleashed sufficient sea level rise to come to have a profound impact on how you live and where you live.
So, Will, that's a sort of fairly gloomy doomsday scenario, but it's real. What sort of timeline are we talking about? I mean, for example, in our garden, sorry to be prosaic, but it's mid to late November and our roses are still blooming, our clematis is still there. But in the same breath, look at the news and then you see the floods in Monmouth this week, and then through the summer we've seen these terrible fires going through southern Europe and so on. What is the timeline for this?
Well, some of it's happening now, as you rightly say. And of course, it's important to distinguish between climate and weather. We experience weather, and weather is a reflection of a changing climate. I think one of the problems is it's very easy to feel disempowered by the scale of what's happening. Some of these consequences will take decades or centuries to come to fruition. We have choices, but there are lots of things we can do in our everyday lives to get to grips with this thing, and no action is too small. So the lives that we lead, the businesses we choose to support, how we spend or invest our money, the politicians we vote for, the policies they put in place, all of those things are going to be fundamentally important in slowing down, hopefully in due course reversing these bad and scary outcomes. So in the same way that I talked about negative tipping points, clearly there are potentially very positive ones as well. So there are reasons to be cheerful, or at least cautiously optimistic.
That sort of plays into what we as individuals could be doing.
Yeah, I know, and there's lots of stuff. There's what we do in our daily lives, has impact. And I think there are decisions that we can take every day effectively, and many of them are good for us as well. Being close, getting on a bike rather than in a car, if that's an option, is positive in every sense. Good for you, good for the planet. Eating less red meat, very clearly better for the planet. But I think we can look at lots of good trends happening. A shift to renewable power generation and away from fossil fuels. Norway runs on electric cars. Wind and solar investments at record levels. But there are simple things that we can all do. I think we assume if we recycle stuff, then that's great, and it is. But actually, the waste hierarchy says, firstly, reduce what we reduce, refuse and reduce. We don't need to consume so much.
That's really, really helpful, giving us our own, setting tasks for us to assume our own responsibility in dealing with climate change. I suppose my last question really is this, and that is, what would you say to climate deniers?
Politicians who publicly think or disparage climate science are being scientifically illiterate. So I think it's irresponsible. I would argue it's immoral. And I would ask them to go back to school and look at the science. And I think they owe us better than to deny that's happening. So when we decide to change things, it can happen very fast, much faster than we imagine. Members of u3a are not going to see the worst consequences of these trends. Our children will see significant change, and our grandchildren will live in a much changed and more challenging world.
William, that's been so fascinating, sobering and compelling. On behalf of all of us at u3a, I'd just like to say thank you very, very much indeed.
Complete pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
That was Will Day, a leading voice in the fight for a more sustainable future, talking to our reporter Alistair Wayne. Will's insights remind us that whilst the challenge of climate changes are daunting, there is still hope. Through our actions, big and small, we can all contribute to slowing its effects. Remember, the choices we make now will shape the world our children and grandchildren will inherit. It's the oldest known monumental structure in the world, and its discovery is reshaping our views about the prehistoric period. We're talking about the Göbekli Tepe archaeological site in southeast Turkey that dates back to 10,500 years BC and was only uncovered during excavations in the 1990s. Aged 96, Derek Darwin is a member of the Reigate u3a group and has had a lifelong fascination with ancient history. He's the creator of a popular YouTube video issued in 2021 that talked about the ongoing excavations of the Göbekli Tepe site. Susie Hodges caught up with Derek recently to find out more about this incredible monumental structure.
How has the discovery of the Göbekli Tepe site changed our understanding about the dawn of civilization?
Well, it certainly increased it because it took us back from the hunter-gatherers to farmers, and that's what started it, and they all came west from there.
But there's a lot of mysteries, aren't there, about this site? I mean, how, for instance, did they manage to build it at a time before the invention of the wheel and metal tools? How did they manage to move those huge monolithic stones into position?
Susan, the same way as Stonehenge, they knew how to do it, and they could lift things and move them. They knew a lot more. They were not fools, even though they had not many tools.
So they used a system of poles and pulleys?
Yes, and carrying them on sledges to get them near.
Another question we don't know the answer to, though, is why this complex was built. Do you think it was most likely that it was built as a religious site or a shrine or a gathering place for a cult?
That's the nearest solution we can get to it. A lot of religions and early thought started, and we don't know why they did it.
As you said before, these hunter-gatherers were not fools. I mean, there's a symmetry about this monumental stone complex, isn't there? So it would be fair to assume they were far more intelligent and skilled than perhaps we previously thought?
Yes, certainly were.
Now, the huge T-shaped pillars, they're richly carved, aren't they, with scenes of animals, birds and humans. What do these carvings tell us, in your view, about the people of that time and their beliefs and the natural world they lived in? What clues do they give us?
The answer is we don't know, but they were looking around everything, and mostly I think those pictures are scenes of animals either they'd be frightened of or wanted to catch. And it was their way of communicating. It's just a version of stone carving of any kind.
And of the carvings, you've seen many pictures of them. Which ones were most striking for you?
I think the ones with the dodos, because I didn't think that they existed. So.
We understand that Göbekli Tepe was used for around 2,000 years or so. And then it was abandoned and covered up with earth. we don't know why, do we? Do we have any theories as to why that happened?
No, there may be very fundamental reasons, but they'd started to develop farming areas and probably their religion changed. We don't know because we don't know what their background was.
At the present time, less than 20% of Göbekli Tepe has been excavated. So there's a lot more yet to discover. Do you think that we could find other things that also cause us to maybe rethink our previous assumptions about the people of that time?
Sure, everything archaeologists find changes your mind in some way. And those developments are much later than I knew anything about, and there obviously were dwellings as farming developed, because the hunter-gatherers wouldn't have needed them. They kept moving. When they started becoming farmers, they settled there. But again, until they started writing and leaving messages, we don't know.
But is it fair to assume that Göbekli Tepe did mark in a way the time when they started to move away from hunter-gathering to more settled?
Yes, it most certainly did. And it was shortly after the last ice age and the flooding.
Because there must have had to be a lot of people involved in that construction, both the workers and the people in charge who designed it, who had a thought about how it should be set out. It implied a lot of people, and a lot of people who'd need some kind of shelter and food.
Yes, but it all developed with time. It's believed there were about 3,000 men setting up Stonehenge. It was probably something the same, but that was so much later, as was the pyramids. There weren't so many dwellers on Earth in those days, but they were sufficient and they had to survive, so they had to do everything and learn everything.
That was Derek Darwin, an ancient history enthusiast, talking to Susie Hodges about the Göbekli Tepe monument structure in southeast Turkey. What a fascinating world we live in. I hope you're enjoying the show. Have you thought about joining us as one of our guests? Do you have a story to tell, a learning experience you want to share with others? Whether it's a fascinating piece of history, a unique hobby, or a topic that's captured your imagination, you could feature in a future episode. Just tell us about it and we'll do the rest. We're eagerly waiting to hear from you. Contact us on communications@u3a.org.uk. communications@u3a.org.uk. And now back to the show. Now, let's see how we can take life a little less seriously and laugh a lot more. Today's episode is guaranteed to leave you giggling. We're diving into the world of laughter yoga. Yes, you heard that right. Yoga with laughter. We'll find out how two amazing guests got into this quirky practice. And no, you don't need to be happy or have a great sense of humour to start. You just need to start laughing. Whether you're here for health benefits or just curious about what it's like to laugh for no reason, this episode will have you in stitches, or at least smiling to yourself. Let's shake up that cocktail of joy and dive in. Bob Wells laughed his way through this interview with Judith Walker and Maggie Thompson. And Judith is a member of Edinburgh U3A and trained as a laughter yoga teacher and leader at United Mind London. She is the U3A Laughter Yoga Subject Advisor. Maggie, aka Merry Maggie, is a member of Stourbridge U3A and is an accredited laughter yoga teacher with the Federation of Holistic Therapists through United Mind Limited. So listen to this one.
How did you both get into laughter yoga?
You go first, Judith.
Somebody said something about laughter yoga. This is obviously a good thing. I want some of that. And at that time, there was very little laughter yoga available. I couldn't find any for about 5 years. And then someone came along that was doing a session, and I'm immediately hooked. You don't have to be happy to start with. You don't have to have a sense of humor. You don't have to feel like laughing. You just begin laughing, and it turns into real laughter. And I never looked back. I immediately trained as a teacher, and I've been running groups ever since. It's made a lot of difference to me.
I was working for a charity for older people, and I came across a lady who was a laughter yoga teacher, and I thought, that sounds like a good thing for them to do. It was my light bulb moment. I was absolutely hooked by it, and I've never looked back since. And that was back in 2009.
For those who know very little about it, can you please explain what exactly laughter yoga is?
Laughing is a good thing to do, and people don't quite know how to get started. They think, oh, well, I've got to tell me a joke, or I've got to feel like laughing, or I've got to, but it's nothing like that. You simply start laughing. It's coming from the body. It's not coming from your brain. You just start laughing. If you're told to get on the stage because you're an actor, and you're told to get on the stage and laugh, you just start doing it. Otherwise, you're not going to get paid. And so if you do just start laughing, pretend, simulate laughter, but the laughter then turns into real laughter, because laughter begets laughter, and laughter is contagious. And especially if you're with a crowd of other people who are also laughing, the pretend laughter turns into real laughter really quickly if you just allow it. And then you get the giggles, and then you can't stop.
How does it differ from sort of traditional yoga or meditation?
Yoga is yoga, and it's based on the breath. It's not a lot of funny postures or positions or asanas, or you've got to stand on your head. Yoga is all to do with breathing. And you breathe in, you breathe out fully and slowly, and that is the pranayama, which is what yoga, traditional yoga, is based upon. And laughter yoga is the same thing, because you breathe in and then you laugh it out. And if you laugh, it is simply breathing out and making a noise. You go, ha, 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 until you can't breathe out anymore. And then, of course, you have to breathe in again. So in that way, it is a traditional yogic practice, because it's based on the breath, but with this added laughter bit, which releases endorphins, which makes you feel happy, which makes you want to laugh some more.
If you ask people how they laugh, whether they laugh when they're breathing in or breathing out, you'd be amazed at how many people think that they laugh when they're breathing in.
Oh, really?
But it's so it doesn't do that at all. So we laugh when we're breathing out. And one of the things that's very good for people when they do ordinary yoga is that they say, right, extend your exhale, extend your exhale. Well, you can't help but do that when you're laughing. You automatically extend the exhale. So you go, and it extends it. And while you're doing that, it means you're getting rid of any stale air that's inside your lungs. So that's where the health benefits come for it.
I feel happy already.
Of course you do.
How do people feel, in talking about that, how do people feel when they first start?
Weird. A lot of people come along very, very suspicious and hesitant and shy, and they kind of clam up. But if you actually do it, it does feel weird at first. But then you begin to get the hang of it, and you get used to it. And particularly if you come back, I always say, you don't just do it once. You've got to come back 2 or 3 times, because you will, as I say, you will begin to understand what's going on, and then you will want more of it. But it can feel very strange at first.
One of the first exercises I do with people who've never done it before is I say, I'm going to get you to take yourselves out of your comfort zone. So the exercise is we take a deep breath in and we make a circle around ourselves, which is our comfort zone. And then we get to jump out of our comfort zone and let the laughter out. And then people begin to feel a little bit more comfortable, because we've recognized how they're feeling.
Well, it all sounds very good. So good, in fact, that I was just wondering if we could, while we're on, do a particular exercise that perhaps listeners could join in.
Oh, yes. Well, okay. Now pretend that you're mixing up a cocktail or a milkshake or something. But just pretend you've got glasses in each hand. Okay, a milk cocktail. Right, now you're going to mix it up, but it's a laughter cocktail. Okay, so we're going to do mix. and then you shake it up. Okay, shake it up, shake it up. You're going to drink it all up. 1, 2, 3. Oh. Now, when you do that, you throw. Be careful you don't hurt your back or your shoulders. But if you can put your arms up into the air and just a great big wide laugh and throw your head back and let it really come out. Okay, and then breathe in, big breath in. And giggle it out. Yeah. So that's how it works.
The cat's looking at me in a very strange way. Yeah, I feel great. That's brilliant. So I hope all the listeners have had a go at that.
Laughter connects people. If you look into somebody's face and you laugh, you immediately form a very positive connection with that person. And unlike conversation or talking about anything, there is no way of misunderstanding. There's no misunderstandings. And so it brings people together, and it is used very seriously in situations. If you can get people together who are at loggerheads with each other, if they're fighting but big time fighting, and you can get them together to laugh, you immediately relax the whole thing and make the whole situation much more positive. And it can be used in anger management, and it is currently used in prisons and conflict resolution and all sorts of situations that are very deadly seriously people fighting and misunderstanding. Of course, the thing is you've got to get them together to laugh. But once you've done that, you've pretty much cracked it.
Well, Maggie and Julia, it's been great talking to you. How would people find out about laughter yoga?
We both do run laughter yoga sessions for the U3A online learning. Once a month, both of us do, one on a Wednesday, one on a Tuesday. So if you have a look through the list, you can find us there. And if you like to click on the link, then you can register to take part and have the link sent to you.
So this is for any member of any U3A, and there's no charge, but you do have to register.
That was Judith Walker and Maggie Thompson talking with Bob Wells, our reporter, who did more laughing than talking. Who knew laughing could be such a powerful workout? From breaking down barriers to stretching your lungs in the most fun way possible. Laughter yoga is more than just a good time. It's an experience that brings people together, one chuckle at a time. Be sure to check out Maggie and Judith's sessions. So keep smiling, keep laughing, and most importantly, keep breathing and laughing some more. Ha ha ha. Now we have an exciting opportunity for those of you who may be interested in joining our podcast team. Do you like asking questions? Are you a good listener? Or are you just curious about people's lives generally? So have you ever thought of yourself as a potential reporter, chasing stories to share and enlighten others? We have a small team here who put our monthly episodes together, and we want to expand, so we're now looking to recruit more reporters. On a voluntary basis, of course. You'll be involved in seeking out interesting stories, experiences, and learning opportunities. You'll then interview those involved and edit your recording ready for broadcasting. If you feel that you've got what it takes and you're keen to play a proactive role helping us spread our podcast across the country, please do get in touch to find out more. Contact us on communications@u3a.org.uk. That's communications@u3a.org.uk. We look forward to hearing from you. Well, that's January done and dusted. I do hope you enjoyed our first episode of many more to come throughout 2026. Still getting used to saying that. What would we do without our reporters? In this episode, Alistair Wayne, Susie Hodges and Bob Wells. Big thanks. And Bob, your editing and producing just helps us bring it all together, so thanks to you too. Please do come join us next month. Here's an idea to tempt you of what's coming up. AI, artificial intelligence. It's turning up in every aspect of our lives. But what about music? Do you think we can create music too using AI?
Two ways you can do it. There's a very simple way you can do it, which is effectively give it a few prompts to play with, and it will go away and create you some lyrics based on what you've described in the prompts. And it says, are you happy with this? And you can go through and edit the lyrics, change things, and then ask it to produce music that is suitable.
This is Maggie West saying cheerio, bye-bye for now, and let's do it all over again in February. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and keep listening.